Well, hello and welcome. I just got done with my Toro portion recording, and I just wanted to come and do a weekly check-in, catch up. This week was a lot. Um, my dad came home a week ago yesterday. I did an update. He was happy to be home. He was happy to be with his kitties. He was wheeling around, enjoying our dog, having great conversation, ate really well. And then he started declining. And by the middle of the week, he couldn't swallow his medications. And I finally realized that he was having seizures again. And so he's been on hospice, and I learned a lot about hospice now. And so I contacted them, and it's like, he needs to get in because I've not been able to give him his medicine now for a little bit, and he hasn't been eating because he's having trouble swallowing. And my dad's seizures don't present like, the seizures you see on TV, or, if you know what seizures look like. I did not know what seizures except for just what's on TV. Um, his present with him babbling words that don't make any sense, but he looks you right in the eye and like, you should understand what I'm saying. And it's like the chicken went to the drugstore and, you know, came home, whatever. It makes no sense at all. And then also he can't swallow. So it affects his speech and his swallowing, and then he shakes. And so once I realized what it was, I called the hospice nurse and I'm like, okay, what do we do? And they're like, okay, we've got two options. If we have a bed available, he can come down to the hospice house. It's called the Heinz House. Or you can sign him off of hospice and send him to the hospital, but we can check and see hospice house. Let me get back to you, blah, blah. They had a big huddle and they called me back and, oh, there's a bed available in the hospice house and he's going to get the same care in the hospice house as he's going to get in the hospital, and that way you don't have to sign him off of hospice and then sign him back on when he's done at the hospital. Just nice and easy. And so it's like perfect. It snowed. Oh my gosh, it snowed so much the night before. And we had 4 inches, which we have a very, our driveway's 16%. It's steep. And so um I let's see, I think it was a little bit just about noon or so. Yeah, I called Rusty, or no, maybe even before that, whatever. I called Rusty and I'm like, I got to get him to the hospital. I've got to get him down to the Heinz house. We need to have an ambulance come and get him. And he's like, okay, I'll come home. And in our four-wheel drive truck, I'll drive up and down the driveway till it gets to the asphalt so that they can make it up our driveway to the house. So he did that. And they came up and they took my dad down to the Heinz house. And we drove down and met them down there and learned a lot. And so they're like, okay, you know, we don't, I'm like, okay, so you're gonna like hook up an IV and start giving him his medication in the IV. And they're like, no, we don't do IVs here. And I'm like, well, then, he's having seizures. He needs his medication dose upped. And how you can give him his medication and stuff. And they're like, oh, we have a way we crush it and mix it with water and we give it to him rectally. And that um, the mucous membrane, it's absorbed. I get it. So, okay. And I'm like, oh, no IV that concerns me, but, if you, okay. And so we left. And then I woke up the next morning just like, wait a minute. If he doesn't have an IV, then he has no hydration. And because he hasn't been able to drink, and he has no nutrition because he hasn't been able to eat. He already hasn't drank and ate for a couple of days, more than just a couple sips. And he was really thirsty, which he never asks for water. And as the ambulance and EMTs were here, he was asking for water. He was super thirsty. So I called the hospice and I'm like, how is he getting his nutrition and his hydration? And he's like, oh, he's not. We don't do that. And I'm like, whoa. So he's having seizures and you're just going to let him starve to death. No. So I had to then have them send him by ambulance over to the Kaiser Hospital. Honey, you can walk by normally. Send him over to the Kaiser Hospital Friday. And we met him there, and he was so severely dehydrated. And then they found out he had pneumonia, which I'm learning now that infections in the elderly present differently than normal people. Like he didn't have a fever. Normally, pneumonia, you get a fever. Well, my girlfriend, Shell, who is a nurse, she's like, no, the elderly, they get confused, like with UTIs, urinary tract infections, um, pneumonia, things like that, they get confused. And so, or that can also bring on the seizures. So Rusty came down, everything seemed kind of settled, and we went to dinner, and they called us at dinner, like, you might want to get back here. You need to say goodbye. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, make that to go. We're out of here, and left, got back there, and things were better. And but I guess what had happened is he coded, his heart stopped. Now he does have a DNR, but it is like no CPR, compressions that will break ribs, but that like shocking the heart or treating pneumonia, things like that. Yes, just no, no intubating. He doesn't want to be kept alive by a tube, things like that. So they had to shock his heart twice, um, because he had coded, his heart stopped. And so they had him on all kinds of medicine. They got it all under control, and he was still not coherent, not, he was out of it. And they sent him up. He got a room. They would not, and this is something I really need for people to understand. If you are advocating for someone who does not have the ability to explain anything for themselves, you've got to advocate and you've got to be firm. The ER nurse tried to advocate for us to go up with my dad to his room. And it was 10 o'clock probably in the evening. And so we were past visiting hours, and the nurse didn't allow it. And and I was just too tired to fight at that point. And I just prayed that everything would go fine. But, that's just, and the ER nurse was really interesting. She's like, that's like only the second time ever since I've worked here that a nurse has not allowed a patient to come up. And it was because it was a shared room and didn't want to disturb the other patient, all the different things. But my dad was not able to advocate for himself, and he did not get his PM meds. And that was one of the things I talked to the emergency nurse about. It's like, I need to talk to them to explain to them what he needs at this point. And so, yeah, the next morning I went in and found out he didn't get his seizure medications. He's got to have his seizure medications every 12 hours to keep him from having seizures. He didn't have his seizure meds. He, yeah. Anyway, so the next morning, though, he was sitting up and able to communicate some. Um, he was still, confused, and didn't know where he was and wanted to know how he got there and why and all the different things. And then today we went down to visit him, and he was jolly and talking and joking and laughing with the nurses. And it's like it's been a roller coaster ride. So at this point, our goal is they're treating his pneumonia. They upped and changed his seizure medication so that he, hopefully when he comes home, he won't have seizures again. But now I know to look that if he starts showing those signs, that he probably has an infection of some sort or something else going wrong with him. My son-in-law he worked at a care home, and he said that was one of the things is that if, agitation, when they're agitated, it usually means that there's something else wrong. There's an illness of some sort. So that's good to know. So agitation, because he gets agitated and then he's got the seizures and then all the things. So our goal is for them to treat his seizures and his pneumonia. and then he will come back home on hospice. The only difference will be, since I learned a lot, hospice is awesome and they take really good care of everybody, the family and the patient. But you have to know that they're not going to do anything to prolong life, even treat pneumonia or give hydration and nutrition. That has to happen in a hospital. So my dad was not, clearly not at the brink of death because of his cancer. He was at the brink of death because he was dehydrated and he was having seizures and he was he hadn't eaten in several days. That's not a in my opinion, that's not a humane way to let somebody die. Um, so we will still use hospice, but, and then, of course, when the time does come where, his illness has caught up with him and, there's no treatment, we're not doing any treatment for the cancer. So when that becomes the case, then that's when we will make him comfortable. But if he's got a treatable illness, we will treat it because there's still a lot of life left in him. And he even said today, he's like, I've realized that from the waist down, I'm useless, but from the waist up, I'm still pretty good. So, that's not someone who was on their deathbed, but he was, but he shouldn't have been. So anyway, we're learning a lot, huh, baby? Yeah. We are learning. We're learning a lot. So anyway, other things that I'm learning is how to love and care for, yeah, someone who's difficult and someone who's not very nice sometimes. Well, hi, baby. Um, and there's an agape love song. No, of course, I don't remember which one it is, but it's talking about when Jesus washed Judas's feet. He knew what Judas was going to do to him. He knew that Judas was going to betray him and that Judas, and he was going to die because of that. And he loved and cared and, washed his feet. And so I constantly go to that. Let me see if I can find it. I may not be able to. Mm, I'm not sure which one it is. Anyway, um, but so my lesson in learning right now is how to love and care for grace, 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 and more grace, and knowing that the Most High has everything already taken care of and that He is in control of all of this. And I just have to walk in His love, in the way that Yeshua walked, in loving others as yourself. The first two commandments, loving God with all your heart, mind, body, soul, and strength. And if you do that, you love your neighbor as yourself. You love even the unlovable or the difficult. Um, so that's what I'm learning. And sometimes I'm okay at it, and sometimes I really suck at it. Um, and I'm thankful I have another chance when he comes home. So, for those of you who are following along, that's that. Anything else I should add? I think I got it all, huh, Mr. Ellis? Anything else I should add? No? All right. We're going to go take care of stuff. It's what? Oh, it's 6 o'clock. It's late. All right. We got other things to do. Take care of. Be blessed. Prayerfully, y'all willing, I'll be back here next week with another update. And hopefully it'll be a lot nicer one, a lot happier one. All right. Bye.